Hello and welcome to another episode of Pivotal Moments with Lolita. As always, I'm excited about the conversation. Today, we have someone who is the host of a relationship podcast. Yes. So I am very excited. I am going to get right into today's conversation and have Queenie tell us about who she is and what she does. Welcome to the conversation, Queenie.
Oh, thank you so much, Lolita. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yay. Yes. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So, yes, I have the Relationship Zone, the podcast here in Prince William County. I decided to make a pivot. I was standing up conversations around the area under the brand of Bar Talks. And I realized that what was most dear to me was talking about healthy relationships and really trying to find a way to cultivate those relationships. And so I decided to spin my live show into a podcast and focus on relationships. So I call it the Relationship Zone, where we talk about all things love, life, and relationships.
Wow, that's powerful. And especially during the pandemic, I've done a lot of reading and hearing and even reporting on how so many relationships have really struggled, have fallen apart, even, domestic violence is on the rise. So I think what you're doing is just so important to really focus on relationships, right now where relationships can really be kind of under attack when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of the relationships, I think, just they being in this pandemic, I think that it took a toll because we really weren't all in really healthy relationships anyway. We weren't in healthy relationships with ourselves. We weren't in really healthy relationships with our family, our loved ones, our jobs. The universe, right? And so you see what happens when you're not in good relationship, not in good standing, then, if we just look at society or we look at the universe as a whole, humans haven't done well by what God has given us. And so I think at times, and science shows it, that our planet, has to, like rectify the issue and cause us cause us to be uncomfortable. But that's because we're just not in harmony. We're not in good relationship with things that matter the most to us. And I think it's the same thing we saw in homes, with our kids and, our loved ones, our spouses or significant others. We were not already in good relationship with there was something kind of brewing, right? And so when pandemic showed up, the problems really, they floated to the surface. And so it's unfortunate, but I believe that there's power in conversation, and healing comes from having conversation. Pain as well, but healing comes from conversation, especially when you set your intention.
Wow, so beautifully put. I love that. I love it. Well, of course, the theme of this conversation is about pivoting. So you kind of mentioned
Oh, yeah.
your pivot, but what pivot do you want to kind of expound on regarding your pivotal moment?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I was thinking about this question when you and I first connected, and I was like, I've had so many pivots, Alita. I mean, you, I think life is filled with pivots or opportunities to change, right? So when I think back from being married and suddenly becoming a single mother, raising two preteens, and my life was planned, and then here comes divorce and problems, and I had to pivot to go from being married, in duality to becoming singularly, but still having to spread myself of over two other individuals that I need to take care of. So I thought about that pivot. I thought about the pivot where after all of that, thinking we're all settled and I'm in the groove of being a single mom, then we have this crazy house fire where we lose everything. And now life is totally upset all over again. I couldn't keep moving forward. I had to make a turn. So I think when I look at all of the many different things that go on in our lives, my life, and particularly, is it really that I just had to make a pivot? Was it that uncomfortable? Or was God putting me on my path, right? My the purpose. Our pages are constantly turning, and sometimes life just throws us one of those, things, and we're like, wait a minute, I wasn't ready for this. and we have to, make a change, but I believe leaning into it, just lean into it, go with it, take the L, get back up, because I believe that a true life lived is filled with many different currents, just like the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, you really shared quite a bit there. I mean, I love the thought of leaning into the pivots, and also just accepting that this is a part of what life is. All these consistent changes, are part of the journey.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. And wow, I thought I was ready when you were talking about, the divorce and the raising the teens, and then you talk about
Oh,
our losing everything.
yeah.
I can't even imagine. I can't imagine.
And honestly, that was just the part of my life where, you think you once you get over one hurdle, you're like, okay, I got another plan. I'm good. I got it. I'm in a groove. And then life happens again. And, again, like I said, you can't just keep going straight. I personally, I had to pause and readjust and look at some things in my life and say, what, that didn't work out, but we have to not just survive, but me and these kids have to thrive. So I had to make another pivot. But that's what life is about. As crazy as it can be, that's the beauty of it as well, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I like that. So when we talk about this pivot, we always bring up the point of it's really the pivot itself is the thing that causes you to make this change around, right? So sometimes it's termed your why or your mission, but what did you discover with making these pivots, particularly these ones that you mentioned today? What did you discover was that central thing of importance that everything else must circle around that, kind of like your why?
Yeah. Um, I think for me, through it all, I discovered that regaining a sense of stability in my life, that's what ultimately fed the peace of mind, which was the center of it all. Um, and that's difficult, right? Because when you have all these different things happening, the various, turns and the ebb and flows of life, um, and look, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's just very important to have a stable mind. How do I get a stable mind? By having stability around me as much as I can. This may not be everyone's, need or why, but it is mine. It was, something I needed peace of mind. And the only way I could see having that was finding my way back to some sense of stability. And in everything I go through, I realized that that's the running theme. I need stability for peace of mind. That is super, super important.
Wow. And I am so glad that you shared that and that you said that, even again, like you said, talking about maybe Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
It's something I'm super passionate about. And I'm looking forward to doing quite a few events even this month, just circled around that. But you said something so key, because as a person who has dealt with depression and anxiety, you're right. When you lose that sense of stability, that in itself, I feel like that can cause the spiral. So the
Yes,
fact that
yes,
you realize that is your thing, that if you're spiraling, I gotta get back to that sense of stability.
yeah.
Wow.
That's huge for me. It is so huge for me, and I see it in every area of my life. Friendships, family, my job, uh, my workout schedule, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have to have the stability. It's less about the routine. It's more about the stability. It's more about knowing that that thing is there, that I can go and be a part of this. Like, I need to have stability in my life without a whole lot of moving pieces. So yes, it's important to me.
I love it. I love it. So now switching gears a bit, we always bring in the other term, adjustments.
Uh,
When we talk about the pivot and our why, those are kind of like the sexy terms, right? But
yeah.
adjusting is can be kind of ugly. It can be defined as adapting to something uncomfortable. So share with us a time when you had to make the adjustment rather than the pivot.
Yeah, so I like to call becoming a single mom. I had to pivot, right? But in truth,
I love it.
I can only pivot so much, right? I had to make some real adjustments. But and I think like becoming a single mom, and I was away from my immediate family, while still, striving to meet all my accomplishments and my goals, things like that. I had to make adjustments rather than pivot. Like I had to adjust some things around because pivoting sometimes required me to totally reinvent the thing. And if you don't have the resources or the know-how, right? Or you don't even have the opportunity to reinvent, you got to just make some adjustments and just kind of sit with it. So I couldn't reinvent a place, the place that I found myself in. Rather, I just had to adjust to now I'm a single mom. My son is in high school now. I got a daughter that is going through preteen and she's, having those bouts. I don't know what I'm going to come home to.
Yeah.
I have no idea how she's going to be, if she's going to be like a little kitten or she's going to be a lion. But I had to adjust and I had to look at what I could do and how my children and I could best thrive and how we could function, as a new family dynamic with dad being absent. And what I still was left with, right? Sometimes you got to operate and work with pieces. You may not have it all together, but if God leaves you with the pieces, and that's just enough so you can really like restart, right? Or even stay afloat, then you got to do that. So I had to make adjustments. I didn't have all the whole pieces. I had parts of it, right? I had to pull from here and pull from there and move in gratitude. Because I was left with something that I could kind of pick up the pieces and keep moving, right? Just adjust myself versus totally pivoting and trying to start something brand new. My kids had not changed. They were still kids. And as my father, who is now deceased, he said, you didn't forget that they had to be raised. And that was what was most important, was not forgetting that these kids had to be raised and making the adjustments to do so.
Oh my goodness. Sis, you said so many things that I'm just like, I'm making mental notes because, when you were talking about the pieces, like not to go off on a tangent,
Yeah,
but
no, it's cool.
I loved it because, so a little interesting fun fact about me, I hate puzzles. I hate them. Like, I just don't have the patience. And what's hard for me is I need to see the big picture. I need to see how it all connects. I need to, like, that's how I think. That's how I operate. My brain is literally always just like producing something, right?
Yes, yes.
So it's interesting because I also struggle, like I mentioned, I've struggled with depression in the past. And sometimes I'm like, what am I going to do? And you saying that about the pieces really spoke to me because really the ability to see what you have with the pieces is what can create that stability you need to function.
Yes, it is so true, Lolita. I'll give you a perfect example, and I try not to take so much time, but I'll go back to when I had the house fire. And this is just something that God gave me the gift to appreciate the small things. And I didn't know that, right? I just that's just who I am. But I remember we had it was a 4 alarm fire. Could have been 5 alarm. I need to go back, but 4 alarm fire, let's say that. And I'm watching the apartments or the condos, they're engulfed in flames. And my kids were safe because they were in school and they were actually walking home at the time. And we had a person to lose their life in the fire, and we're all standing about trying to just figure it out. And I remember because my condo was right underneath the one that actually was engulfed in the flames, and so we were obviously affected by this. And as I was watching the timber and all these things, or the ember and all these things just flying and fire and the fire department and everyone saying get back, the only thing I asked God for in that moment was, I said, just let me at least be able to retrieve my kids' birth certificates, right? So didn't matter what I lost. The small things I knew I needed to be able to get started again, right? We weren't from here. I didn't want to go trying to, figure out birth certificates, get all these things from all these various places. I just was like, if you save nothing else, God, just save my container with the birth certificates. And, in there, of course, I had other documents. And not only did God allow me to be able to go and retrieve those, I was able to retrieve my laptops and things like that were not damaged. So the little things, I was thankful for the pieces that I did have. Now, we lost everything else, but I was grateful for the pieces, because at least that gave me some stability and it gave me a starting point. What was most important was not have to go through all that to try to just keep my kids' things together, So yeah, the pieces are important for our life to adjust.
I'm almost speechless, which takes a lot. I'm almost there. Wow, that's just so powerful. Like, I'm getting goosies, I'm feeling emotional. Like, what you've shared it's just so powerful. That's really all I can say. That is just, and thank you for sharing that experience, because it's speaking to me, like I said, and I know people that watch this, it's going to speak to them too, because we forget to think about the pieces and what that really mean. Like you said, those pieces would lead to a starting point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we're at the point where you are supposed to leave some gems with the viewers. So I don't know what else you got left, but go ahead and drop some more gems.
Pivot. I mean, you hit me with this, and I'm like, I just kind of go with flow, right? What life is. But you actually caused me to really think. I had to really think about this, right? Because I want to make sure that, one, I'm authentic, and I don't have it all together. I learn daily, trial and error every day. And I think that when we talk about pivot, that pivoting can result, from any kind of disruption, in your life, job, divorce, death, what have you. But it doesn't have to be so super stressful. You do not have to succumb to the stress and the pressure of change. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But it can be one of the most beautiful experiences. And I said earlier, if you just take the time to lean into it and to look at what you do have to work with, because some people have nothing to really work with, and they're still smiling, they're still okay, they're still optimistic, they still think that it will be better tomorrow. So whenever we are lucky enough to have something to work with, we have to count it all joy. And I think lastly, whenever we are faced with a pivot, adjustment, or change, I think that we have to trust that we can either land on our feet or we can learn how to fly. That's it.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, I got nothing else. You win. You did it. No, this was so truly impactful, authentic, and just very inspiring. So I thank you for just sharing yourself and really, one thing I could say, that people, when they come on this show and we have these conversations, I love that everyone really takes it seriously and recognizes the power of sharing their experiences. So I thank you for honoring that and taking it seriously and really sharing your life and vulnerable parts of your life, because it really is powerful. So I truly thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for having me. Just these intimate conversations, as I shared with you before when you wrote that beautiful piece on me, they give space for growth and connection and love and empathy and care, and it's beautiful. It feels so good, so thank you for providing this type of space that we can get together.
I love it. Well, I'm hoping we can connect again later this month to talk about some more things regarding mental health awareness. Maybe we can jump on a live or something, because I just feel like we just scratched the surface of all that you can really drop to really just help people with dealing with this, right? So thank you. I'm not going to take too much longer, but I appreciate you coming through, Queenie. Of course, your information is there on the screen. So you all please follow her, check out her podcast, and just the other amazing things that she's doing. You might even catch her dancing.
You will catch me dancing. Because it feels so good. You will catch me dancing.
I love it. And of course, as always, thank you all for supporting me and continuing to watch Pivotal Moments. I thank you so much for that. And we will see you next time on Pivotal Moments with Lolita.
Thank you.